Hey guys, this is going to be an update video to the door latch receiver here, how to disassemble it and reassemble it, and what I found to be the cause of failure within mine. And I think part of the failure, beyond me getting a cable stuck in the door, which was the initial cause, I believe this foam gasket plays a lot into that. And when you put this on, like so, this facing here goes flush inside the door where the striker is. So this one kind of faces the rear of the vehicle if the door were shut. And what can happen is the 3 bolts that go in here, when you tighten them down, if you apply too much pressure, it'll actually pinch through this foam gasket hard enough to press the metal into this plastic casing, which you can see it sits out just a hair there. And if you press it too hard, it'll stop this black thing, the tumbler, from spinning. So if that happens, obviously your door will cease to open or close. I believe that when I used a solvent to try and clean mine on my Rubicon, that's actually what caused it. Is it broke down this rubber when I sprayed it in there, and it made it able to collapse closer to the door, which caused this to pinch a little bit more. But that's what I believe to be the cause of my problem on the Rubicon. When reinstalling this into the door, when you put these bolts back into this through the door on the outside, you'll want to tighten it and then back them off just a hair. I tested this with the striker, with the panel of the door still not attached, so as to be able to adjust it if needed. So if it got jammed again, I could undo it essentially. But what I used blue thread lock or Loctite or whatever you want to call it on there. You could use nail polish or anything simple if you don't have anything that advanced, even though that's not that advanced. And a lot of auto parts stores will give it to you at the counter as a free item sometimes in little packets, or it's at 50 cents or whatever. So that's worth getting, but make sure that you don't over tighten it, because I find that that is the pressure plate problem that is caused, because the threading of it happens on the back side here. You can see the threads kind of, I can get it focused in there. So it's on this piece that it threads, but it goes through this piece. And in between, it sandwiches the two. And if you compress the two very hard, you can get them to collapse together, which is not good. So enough about what I believe the problem to be. Let's take this little sucker apart. And this is... in regards to the video I had already made, I believe it's around 600 views already, and it's had a lot of comments and a lot of questions, so I'm really surprised. I actually expected only a few people to use it, but a lot have. And this morning, Jonathan Webb had requested a specific spring within it as to where that goes or how to reinsert it, so I'm going to try and attempt and disassemble and reassemble it as good as I can. And in the first video, I explain what all these pieces do. I think that's kind of, if you want to know that stuff, go back to that video, so I can keep this one short enough, if that's ever possible for me, since I tend to ramble. So while you're unscrewing these, I recommend getting them both the majority of the way out while I'm pinning this with my thumb pretty hard, just because the J-shaped spring rather, is under a lot of pressure and wants to come flying out. So once you get these guys out, you can slide them out. I think that one I left a thread or two. There we go. So once those guys are out, you can hear that click. It just popped open. And what that was the top one up here. The darker spring goes at the top with this little tumbler. And that one's kind of a pain to get into, but when putting it back in, put the bottom in, and then I put the top in. It was kind of a pain to do, and then just feed it around that little guy there. But obviously, if I'm going to take this out, I'm not going to put that in because it'll shoot back out and hit me in the face. So this guy here is the pain to get back in because it has a little pin in the back of it. You can see this little pin there has to go in this trough, and this spring goes around there. And you'll notice that there's a lot of compound grease in there, and you'll want to make sure that you keep that in there because it keeps things nice and lubed up. So beyond this, so this is this side open essentially. That little spring I'll try and just leave in there for, well, actually I'll take it out so we can put it back in. This side over here, the spring on this side, it coils under this arm so so that it can pop on either side of it. And that mechanism is being passed again from these, your door actuators. So that little groove inside here is toggling this thing right there when I fold those two together. And that just has that little spring that holds it there. The top side of this spring, it's harder to see. You can see the underside goes up into the trough on this brass backing piece. Or it's not brass, it's some kind of zinc oxide coating or whatever it is. Grade 8 metal. So this, when you take it on and off, drop it in that way, drop the spring over it, and then bend the spring back down and around this side. So you can get that lever action again. Pop that out. This little guy is the first piece to come out on this side, and it slides out a little bit, and then you'll notice this thing catches on there. So you want to let that fall behind. This little piece just is the rocker. It's pretty easy, pretty simple to get in and out. This little guy, when it comes out, if you do take this out, has to rotate because the head of it is like a T and it fits in a little groove, or an L, I guess. So when it goes into that, it latches in essentially. So it's hooked in there, it won't come out. This piece is kind of a pain to get in and out there. And that's all those pieces. So this one goes in. And it's actually probably easier if you've got this out to just thread this little guy through it. You can see he's got a little overhang there. So put that guy in there. Wish I knew the technical names for these, although that might even just make it more confusing. This little one goes in there so that you get that pin through there. Then if I can find that spring again. This spring again goes that side there, ring around, and then just bend it down.